Let me tell you something unbelievable. Africa, but with an ocean smack dab in the middle of it.
Crack is several kilometers long and caused part of the Nairobi-Narok highway to collapse.
Sounds impossible, right? Well, it's true and is happening right now in the East African Rift. The ground's cracking, and scientists can't even agree on what's next. Stick around as I dive into the big questions about this geologic wonder. No one has all the answers, but I'll try anyway. Number 21, the cracking up. Okay, so Africa isn't exactly the place you would expect to hear about the birth of a new ocean. I mean, sure, you've got vast deserts, dense jungles, and some of the world's most famous wildlife. But an ocean? Well, that's exactly the headline scientists are sharing these days.
However, the signs of this future division are already visible.
A brand new ocean is quietly coming to life in the heart of Africa. And let me make it clear that it's not a sudden, catastrophic event. Instead, it is a long-term process that is gradually reshaping the continent. So the thing is, the East African Rift holds the key to this new development. It is a deep crack running from the Red Sea down to Mozambique. It's not like it's an ocean just yet, but it has the potential to become one over millions of years. But what's mind-boggling here is that scientists still don't fully understand how quickly it will happen, or exactly what could cause the gap to flood. Could this be the unpredictable future of Africa's geography? You never know. Number 20. A geological time bomb. Before I directly get into how an ocean is forming, we need to understand where and why this is happening. So basically, the East African Rift is a geological feature which is stretching across thousands of miles, and it is ground zero. It is located along the eastern part of Africa, and it runs from the Red Sea all the way to Mozambique. You can think of it as a giant tear in the Earth's crust. It is a place where two massive tectonic plates, the Somali and Nubian plates, are slowly pulling away from each other. It's like trying to separate two pieces of paper, except this one is on a massive scale. And instead of tearing just the surface, you're ripping apart the Earth itself. So, as these plates continue to drift apart, the gap between them widens, creating a deep rift in the Earth's crust. And as if this wasn't enough, the shifting of these plates has led to volcanic activity, frequent earthquakes, and the eventual cracking of the land over millions of years. This is why the East African Rift is actually considered one of the most active geological features in the world. So, when scientists say a new ocean might emerge, they aren't joking. Not at all. It's a slow process, but all the geological evidence suggests that the continents are separating. And in that space, water is waiting to fill the void. I just hope Mother Nature goes easy on it. Number 19, a painstaking process. Now, before you directly start picturing a massive gaping hole suddenly filled with water, let's slow down and be realistic. The formation of a new ocean is not an overnight event, guys. It's literally an ocean after all, not your basic backyard pool. So, it's a process that will take millions of years. The plates are only moving apart at a rate of about 2.5 centimeters per year.
It's as though the Earth is revealing its inner workings, laying bare its secrets through the creation of these valleys.
Yes, you heard that correctly. That's an incredibly slow rate of movement. So, don't expect to wake up one morning to see an ocean where there was land before. To put it into perspective, if this rate of separation continued, it would take tens of millions of years before the rift was wide enough to truly form an ocean. And scientists say that a few million years from now, there might be a significant body of water. But we're talking about an unimaginably long wait. Like most of us might not even be alive anymore until then. But then again, the beauty of the process is that it's happening right now, and we're able to witness the early stages of what could become a global transformation. Number 18, Africa, a seaside resort? Here's the million-dollar question. Why do we keep calling this a new ocean? Let's get into the science behind it. Basically, as I told you, the East African Rift is pulling apart the landmass. So as the gap widens, it's quite possible that water from the nearby Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, and other surrounding water bodies could begin flowing into the rift. Simply said, the rift could become a new basin for water, and over time, this basin could grow large enough to be classified as an ocean. But that's a big could, because there are a lot of variables at play here. Yes, the plates are moving apart, but the rate at which water fills the gap depends on numerous factors. It includes the amount of volcanic activity and the geologic stability of the surrounding area. It's not like the rift is a perfect funnel for water to rush in. There are many more details to consider. However, if the conditions are right, we could eventually see the birth of an entirely new body of water. The interesting point is that some researchers also think that this could eventually divide Africa into two distinct landmasses, each with its own coastline. And of course, while forming a whole new body of water that might compete against the size of smaller existing seas, or even the Mediterranean. Number 17, the unexplainable. You must also be wondering, why can't the scientists explain it? Because here's where it gets a bit puzzling. Even though the process of tectonic plate movement is well understood, predicting the exact timeline for when the rift might fill with water is another story. Scientists know that rifts like this one occur because of the dynamics of plate tectonic.
Eventually, the Indian Ocean will flood the Rift Valley, creating a brand new sea and reshaping Africa's coastlines forever.
Okay, but exactly how long it will take before a new ocean forms is still uncertain. It's not like they can set a stopwatch to track the rate of the plates moving apart and then estimate how much longer until we see water rushing in. The unpredictable nature of geological processes makes it difficult to determine how soon or how slowly this ocean could form. And then, the type of water filling the rift might not be as simple as it seemed. Would the waters come from nearby seas, or could freshwater lakes in the region also play a role? What impact will surrounding features like volcanoes have on the water levels? Scientists have theories, but the answers aren't clear-cut. It's the kind of mystery that gets geologists excited, but it also leaves them humbled by the unknown. You get it? Number 16, the changing landscape. Now, here's another thing to ponder upon. If the rift continues to widen and eventually fills with water, it will completely change the landscape of Africa. Currently, the East African Rift divides the eastern part of the continent from the west. But if a body of water fills in the space, we might see Africa split into two separate landmasses.
Splitting a continent into two parts is some super unique event for our planet.
This could have an intense effect on the local environment and ecosystems. For instance, as the rift deepens and more water enters, we could see dramatic shifts in the climate and weather patterns surrounding the rift. An ocean would increase humidity and rainfall, which could potentially create a different climate in the area. The new body of water could also alter ocean currents and wind pattern, and I think this will further impact the regional climate. On top of this shift could create a ripple effect on agriculture, wildlife, and human populations in East Africa. Even the migratory paths of animals could change as the landscape evolves. Have you also thought about it all? Number 15, climate chaos. Okay, let's also talk about the weather for a moment. Oceans don't just sit there looking pretty. They actually have a huge effect on local climates. As the East African Rift potentially fills with water, we're looking at some serious changes in the surrounding areas. Oceans regulate temperatures, absorb heat, and release it slowly. All this can create a more stable climate in nearby regions. This could mean that areas around the rift, which are currently quite dry, could see more rain and a shift toward a more temperate climate. On the other side,
while leeward sides may experience rain shadows,
other areas that rely on the current climate conditions might find themselves facing drier spells, especially if the formation of the new ocean causes the current winds or weather systems to change direction. In fact, if the rift evolves into a large body of water, it could end up influencing the regional monsoon patterns also. A part of this means shifting rainfall to places that might not have seen it before. Basically, we could be witnessing the birth of a new regional weather system, and it could bring some unexpected surprises. And to be honest, I'm more nervous than excited about these surprises. What about you? Number 14, money, water, and trade. Now, let's talk about a wild card, the economy. Has anyone thought about what the new ocean would mean for the economy? Just think about it. The economic implications of this potential process are very real. If this ocean thing finally happens, it will most likely change the economic dynamics of the surrounding region. We could see the development of new trade routes. An ocean in the heart of Africa would offer a new way to transport goods across the continent. The coastline would be bustling with ports, and trade could flow more easily between East Africa, the Middle East, and Asia.
While having sensible economic policies is crucial.
But wait, that's not all. A new ocean could also create new tourism opportunity. It would be a place that's still in the early stages of becoming a world-famous landmark. This could bring in tourists from all over the world, creating jobs and boosting the local economy. But then there is a downside also. There could be challenges to the surrounding agricultural sectors, as the changing climate and landscape might affect farming patterns. So, it's a mixed bag of opportunity and challenge that will need to be carefully managed. Number 13, new marine life. Now, with the birth of a new ocean, there's no telling what kind of ecosystems could emerge. Oceans are complex and dynamic environments, so if another one forms, it will likely create its own unique set of ecosystems. While the rift itself is largely arid and rocky, As water starts to flood the space, the landscape will change dramatically. We might see the development of new types of coastal habitats and home to creatures that have never existed in this part of the world before. We're talking about entirely new species of fish, marine plants, and possibly even new kinds of coral reefs. Some researchers also say that a new ocean could lead to a very different marine environment from what we find in the existing ocean. It is because the chemistry of the water in this rift could be influenced by the volcanic activity in the region. The high levels of mineral-rich lava could create an environment where species that can tolerate extreme conditions thrive. It sounds more like nature getting a fresh start with entirely new marine life, adapting to a very different oceanic environment. Number 12, Mission Impossible. As you'd expect, scientists are closely monitoring the East African Rift to understand how it's evolving. But wait, this is no easy task. The rift has a vast area, and on top of that, much of it is difficult to access due to its remote location and political boundary. So, tracking the subtle movements of tectonic plates requires the latest technology, including GPS systems and satellite imagery.
Where the Nubian, Somalian, and Arabian tectonic plates are interacting.
But even with these advanced tools, it's still tough to predict how quickly the rift will fill with water, or if it will ever evolve into a full-fledged ocean. And then, God forbid, if a volcanic eruption occurs, it could either speed up the process by pushing magma into the gap, or slow things down by preventing water from filling in. So, to sum it up, it's tough. It's like scientists have a map, but the destination is a mystery, and the road is constantly shifting beneath their feet. Must be one hell of an adventure. Number 11, water, water everywhere. How can we talk about the formation of a new ocean without discussing water itself? If the rift does indeed fill with water, where will all of this water come from? It's not like the surrounding seas are just going to pour into the rift overnight. I mean, water has to seep in slowly, and the process might involve complex interactions between the land and the surrounding bodies of water. The Indian Ocean and the Red Sea are close, so one theory is that they could eventually spill into the rift. But then there are also other possibilities. Some researchers think that the water might not come from the oceans at all. They say that it might come from underground aquifers, or even the rise of fresh water from nearby lakes. And it's these unpredictable factors that make this process so interesting. There's literally no guarantee the new ocean will resemble anything like the ones we already know. Number 10, rift with a view. Here's an idea. If, like me, you also just want to pack up and go restart life at a place where nobody knows you, let's go to Africa. Because the potential for human settlement in and around the East African Rift is definitely another fascinating aspect of all of this. Whenever the ocean forms, it could lead to the development of new coastal cities and towns along the newly created shoreline. And this might bring an economic boom to regions that are currently isolated and underserved, like the fishing industry, tourism, and even shipping industries that could thrive in the new oceanic environment. But then, if the new ocean creates large bodies of water, we might also see the displacement of current populations in the region. Just as the ocean can provide resources, it can also pose challenges to those who have lived along the rift for generations. So, keeping in view all the pros and cons, some people might welcome the change, whereas others could face displacement and hardship as the landscape transforms. Number 9, wildlife in distress. How can we forget the beloved wildlife that currently calls the East African Rift home? If their dear rift becomes an ocean, where will the poor animals go? As the landscape changes, the habitats of many animals will too. We all know that the new ocean will introduce a coastal environment where new species of fish, birds, and other marine life could thrive. However, existing land animals and terrestrial ecosystems might be disrupted. So, the transformation from a land-based ecosystem to a coastal one would force the existing animals to either adapt or risk being pushed out. And the competition for space and resources would be a true tug of war. I mean, yes, it's fascinating, but also a very challenging time for local wildlife. Number 8, the shaky truth. It's not like we only have a handful of things to worry about. There's a lot of drama in here. As of now, when we think about the East African Rift, it's not just volcanoes we have to worry about. Mind you, seismic activity is also a very important part of the process. As the tectonic plates pull apart, they don't do so smoothly. The Earth can sometimes throw a tantrum and crumble down in sudden, dramatic movements. This is why the East African Rift sees frequent seismic activity, with earthquakes constantly reshaping the landscape. So the thing is, if earthquakes are frequent and powerful enough, they could speed up the formation of the new ocean by breaking open the crust in new location, or even widening the existing gaps. And this adds a new level of unpredictability to the process that the scientists haven't unlocked. They can only predict the likelihood of earthquakes, but pinpointing the exact timing is tricky. Number 7. Baby Island. Let's talk about a major trend now. Along the rift, volcanic islands have already formed in the past, and this trend could continue as the plates continue to pull apart. This happens when magma from the Earth's interior pushes through the surface. It creates new land, some of which could become islands in the growing ocean. This process isn't unique to Africa only. Volcanic islands form all over the world. But in East Africa, volcanic activity is particularly apparent because it's happening right on the continental rift. These islands could be home to unique ecosystems and potentially even become new hubs for human settlement and economic development. Yay for another place to go to. I mean, a chain of volcanic islands sitting in the middle of a newly formed ocean would be great for an adventure, no? I can already think about it, bustling with marine life and potentially becoming a popular tourist destination. Number 6. People versus ocean. While it's easy to get excited about a new ocean forming in Africa, we must remember that there are real human communities living in and around the East African Rift. These communities could experience a lot of effects depending on how the situation developed. In the short term, the creation of a new ocean might provide more opportunities for people to build coastal cities and engage in trade. Good, because this could boost the local economy. But again, there are also potential drawbacks. Rising waters could displace local populations, and changing climate patterns could result in crops failing or wildlife becoming harder to find. Some parts of East Africa are already struggling with drought, and a shift in water patterns will only add to these issues. Entire villages and towns may need to relocate, and new infrastructure might need to be built to accommodate an oceanfront lifestyle. And I don't think anyone has given it a thought yet. Number 5. Underwater wonders. I don't know about you, but I'm sure about one thing. If a new ocean forms in the East African Rift, it will be surrounded by geological wonders. Beneath the surface, the rift is rich with minerals, volcanic rock, and volcanic gases. The region is full of hotspots that are unique on Earth. So, if the rift fills with water, it could become a hub of geological activity, with volcanic eruptions, seismic activity, and geothermal features filling the landscape. The potential for new land formations like islands or coastlines makes the area one of the most geologically active places on Earth, and the combination of tectonic movements like volcanic eruptions and the eventual flooding of the rift could create some of the most dynamic landscapes on the planet. Scientists are excited about the possibilities for new discovery, but yes, they also understand that this process is also very unpredictable. Number 4. A global shift. As we'd all expect, the formation of a new body of water on Earth could have a global influence, obviously. Even Mr. Musk has said it, and when he says it, who are we to deny? For example, the creation of a large ocean could alter the currents that affect surrounding oceans, and this could change weather systems around the world. It could also change the salinity levels in nearby seas and oceans, and then it would impact marine life. Plus, an entirely new body of water could open up new geopolitical concerns as countries begin to vie for control of access to this new body of water. All in all, the birth of a new ocean in Africa would have outcomes that will ripple across the planet. Number 3. Guessing game. As I have discussed before, the future of the East African Rift remains uncertain, and while scientists are doing their best to monitor and predict the rift's development, there are still many uncertainties. The geological processes involved are complex, and the interaction between tectonic plates, magma, and water is not fully understood. So, the unpredictability of geological activity makes it difficult to forecast how the land will evolve. There's literally no way to know for sure what will happen, which is what makes the East African Rift such an exciting and mysterious geological feature. Number 2. Africa's Big Split. Here comes the most interesting part. One of the most dramatic outcomes of the rift's evolution could be the actual splitting of Africa into two separate landmasses. As the tectonic plates continue to pull apart, there is the potential for the land to break off completely. This is what's happening in places like Iceland, where the plates are already separated by the mid-Atlantic ridge. If the East African Rift continues along its current path, it could eventually split the continent into two. But this is millions of years in the future, so don't pack your bags for an East African island vacation just yet. Also, if Africa were to split, we could see the creation of entirely new coastlines and even new countries forming as a result. It is only getting exciting at this point. Number 1. A million years later. In the grand scheme of geological time, the formation of a new ocean in Africa is just a blink of an eye. Millions of years from now, the Rift Valley could look completely different. I guess the water will eventually fill the space between the tectonic plates and create a thriving new ocean. But for now, we can only watch and wait as the Earth slowly and almost inaudibly reshapes itself. What we do know is that this geological process offers us a rare opportunity to witness the formation of a new natural wonder. While we won't live to see the final result, we can have peace in knowing that we're part of the story as this new ocean takes shape. And for now, that's more than enough, I think. So, will Africa have a shiny new ocean in a few million years? Who knows? The rift's still cracking, the plates are still shifting, and scientists are busy trying to figure out just what the heck is going on. But one thing's for sure, the Earth is putting on one heck of a show, and we're all lucky enough to watch. And that's all for today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you again with another video soon. Goodbye.